Hey everyone, welcome to the Sharon the Red Baron show. I created this channel and this podcast basically because I feel like so many people are having their great awakening, whether it's spiritual, political, religion, signs, synchronicities. I mean, everything is off the charts now. And no longer is it just these woohoo people. We're talking lawyers, doctors, your everyday secretary, mom, dads, you name it. It's everyone. So I just want to get that stereotype out of the way because this is happening with or without you. And I'm glad you're here. So I would like to introduce my friend, Mr. Shaun Knapp, with his story on his Great Awakening. And Shaun, can I ask you a little bit about the way you were brought up and what your family was like and all that good stuff?
Yeah, yep. So I'm born and raised, born in Provo, Utah, fourth of 9 children.
Your parents were
Typical,
busy.
yeah. LDS Mormon family and all relatives going back. They were pioneers
Wow.
that came west with Brigham Young, had been in
Wow.
Illinois, and
So
both
you're
sides of
like
the
the old
family.
school, old school. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So heavy LDS Mormon, you know.
Mhm.
So that's my background with family, big family.
Yeah. Big, kind, loving
Relatives,
family?
big. What's that?
Were they a big, kind, loving family? Very supportive, nice? Were they strict?
Yeah,
Like, tell me a little bit. I'm just
yeah,
curious.
yeah, they were good. A lot of fun. Really amazing siblings. Like we for years have loved getting together on holidays like Thanksgiving and just telling stories, rehashing stories, and staying up laughing till 1, 2, 3 in the morning.
Oh, that's
You know,
nice.
and eating leftovers for days on end.
Right?
You
You
know, and
can't
just
waste food, right?
well, we have to keep making more, like because we're having a
There's a lot
party
of
for
people.
days.
Oh my gosh, with all that, like, oh my gosh, that many kids in the family, and then you multiply those kids and on.
Oh, and now it's unmanageable. It's like the next generation along, and it's sort of it's hard to get together, just our siblings.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
Because my sisters, their moms, and they've got it, and then they've got kids. Shh, you gotta be quiet. The kids are sleeping. And so the dynamics shift after the
Yeah.
decades. And,
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden, blink of an eye, it's like, oh my goodness, we're 40s and 50s. And
I know what I still like
we
to
were
think
just
that in our
20,
minds,
just,
we're still cool though in our minds. So we're
yes.
sharp. We're wiser now, right?
70s, 80s, 90s kids, right?
Oh, the 80s were the best. They really were. I'm so glad that I mean, that was like the cutoff. After 97, the music went yucky and the
the
movies started getting really crazy and but anyhow, I digress, you know that. So can I ask you what was your aha moment, like your real true great awakening in your lifetime?
oh boy. Well, if I were to put everything to, so you could argue there'd be a lot of people say, "You awake, dude?"
Mm-hmm.
So, in as much as you could talk about awakenings, I think for me, if I'm going to talk about spiritual stuff,
Yeah.
uh, I would say that 2013, just over a decade ago, was when boom, all sorts of crazy synchronicities begin to happen.
Like
So,
what?
uh,
Let me fix my hair while I talk to you.
and I don't know what happened. I don't know what triggered, like some divine something started to orchestrate and put me in the pathway of people who had had near death experiences,
Hmm.
people who could see angels and spirit guides, people
Mm-hmm.
opening up spiritual gifts. a lot of woo-woo stuff that I didn't buy into
We
at the
gotta
time.
stop saying woo-woo though. We gotta come up with a better word for down the road, right?
Yeah,
Because that's another label. I'm sick of those
yeah,
labels.
sure.
But
Uh,
so that,
so
oh, yeah, that's crazy.
so I'll tell you, and you probably, I don't want to be redundant, but
No.
okay. So Ismail had me on.
Yeah.
Going to retell a little bit of that. So there was this lady that knew me. She'd met me once at an event, and she was just hardcore pushing, like, come up to Salt Lake. I'm in Provo, an hour south, and come up to Salt Lake. And she was just persistent. And so I finally went up there and we went to dinner and then we went to Whole Foods. And then she's like, oh, we're right by Emily's house. And oh, Emily has a meeting at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. And it was like 10 minutes to whatever. And let's go over. And so we went to Emily's house, and Emily had a house that all these chairs in the circle in the living room. We were the first ones there. And then other people came in and said, okay, great. I don't remember what the name of her meeting was. It was some kind of a something Mormon out of the box meeting or something.
Okay.
That
So
wasn't
are you legit saying that um so you ended up leaving the church, or is this leading up to what happened in
I
2013?
had left attending church by about
Okay.
4 years, and I'd sort of like, well, I'm, going to hell, whatever.
No.
Yeah,
Can I ask you real quick though about that? I'd really like to hone in on that. So what was it like for you to technically leave?
Oh
How
my
did you
God.
feel? Did you feel relieved or upset? Like I've heard all kinds of stories, about
There are people that say, like, of all people on the planet, like, you would be in the top 5 of people who I would never see leave the church.
really.
Yeah. So if we want to talk about Pharisee, like Pharisee of the Pharisees, like that's me.
Mr.
And I
Shaun.
say that in terms of not necessarily a negative thing, but just sort of devout and religiously, like, super committed.
So what
Because,
was your deciding factor to leave though? What was that pivotal moment that you're like, I'm not doing this anymore?
okay, you wanted me to be authentic, right?
Yes. Raw and real, Shaun. Raw and real. Because you know
Okay,
what?
so,
There's going to be plenty of people that are going to be able to identify it
okay.
at some point. Yeah. I'm ready.
So I came in 2008 was when everything just really fell apart for me in terms of, like, okay, something I have guarded as a secret and ignored and denied more than anything else on the planet. I mean, it was everything I could do to make sure that this, I had to protect myself from really knowing and acknowledging. I had
Mhm.
to make sure no one else knew, how to keep it from God from knowing. But essentially,
That you were leaving the church. You had to leave
no,
it from, because he's
no,
always listening to us. You know that, right?
homosexuality. Like, I was like gay, and that was my big thing. Like, so 2008 is like, you know what? I can grow old and be this weird guy at church that everyone's trying to set up. I've got a niece that I'm gonna, like,
Gotcha.
so
So
that
can
was
so can
my
I
big,
so can I ask you, because I'm still learning a lot about the religion.
yeah.
So homosexuality is a no-no? Is that what you're saying with the Mormon Church?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
totally.
I just wanted to hear it because oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
My God, we all love each other.
yeah. And my siblings, when I finally, came out to them,
Mhm.
yeah, that was how pretty much their viewpoint, love about, and there, so there is, my my brother, he's got a father-in-law that's a BYU professor, and
Mhm.
he said, like, man, most of his faculty colleagues, I mean, it almost seems like there aren't hardly any of them that don't have a gay kid.
Mhm.
so,
Mhm.
so they've got to confront this, like, what the heck? And if
How
they
to
don't
what?
have a gay kid, they certainly are going to have a gay grandkid or multiples.
You
So,
never know. Love is love. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it's,
but your family, I guess what I'm asking is your family was okay with you and they understood why you were leaving because of you coming out of the closet, so to speak.
yeah. I mean, they were
That's nice.
getting pretty tripped out. Like, what is your deal, dude? So
Mhm.
initially 3 brothers sort of confronted me, like, what is going on, dude?
When you made this announcement.
Well, before that, before like they knew I wasn't going to church, Mr. Pharisee, like
Oh,
devout,
yep.
like, what's going on, dude?
Mhm.
And then yeah, it was funny. So there was me and 3 of my brothers. I have 2 additional brothers that weren't there, and then 3 sisters that weren't there. So
Mhm. Mhm.
um yeah, my one brother, who would be the next most Pharisee, and I he's
Mhm.
like, he at some point that night, he's like, and they were just quizzitive, asking me questions, not
Mhm.
preaching or trying to
Good.
correct me or
That's
whatever. And
nice because I've heard a lot of opposite stories on that. So that you must have a really nice
I,
family.
yeah, I think there are probably, you hear of these teenage kids that are booted out of their house. And one of my
Mm.
my oldest brother, he had a mission companion, who had been a missionary with him. And when
Mhm.
he came out to his family, like, they disowned him, treated him like
Oh,
crap, like, and that
I
was
can't even imagine
heavily
what that feels
devastating.
like.
I mean, just super devastating. Like, here's who I am and what, and
Yeah.
rather than love and embrace and be there
Yeah.
for him, it's like, sayonara, buddy. So
Can't
anyway,
imagine that feeling. Did you know,
yeah,
do you mind me asking, did you know when you were younger that you were gay? If I
uh,
may ask, you don't have to answer if it's too personal.
yeah,
Just
yeah, I would have, but I would have dissociated from it so much that it was like I sort of put myself in denial. But yeah, it was
Mhm.
always sort of like an obvious,
Okay. Because my
you
cousin
know.
Stevie, he said he knew when he was probably like 6 or 7 years old and stuff. So that's the only
Well, and
reason why I ask.
I've asked so many gay guys, like, when did you first know? And I used to go to the library too, like the
Hmm.
BYU library, and
Hmm.
read all the books I could find on the subject matter. And a
Hmm.
lot of them were well intentioned, and some of them probably fairly accurate to give sort of a thing. But
Hmm.
so there's the nature versus nurture argument. And
Hmm.
after interviewing and asking tons of guys, like, yeah, some of them knew from their earliest memories or from
Yeah.
kindergarten, like
Yeah.
having crushes on other
That's
little boys and holding
interesting.
their hands and stuff. And then before someone, spanks their hand, like, or, like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, clearly there's something to it and not, yeah, it's all going to come to fruition.
and just, I think in 2019, there was I mean, it's superb. If you could put into YouTube, Greg Prince, uh, LDS, and Paradigm versus the Dogma. Anyway, there's this guy named Greg Prince. He's a scientist, and he's a Mormon historian. He wrote a book called David O. McKay and the Rise of Modern Mormonism, which
Hmm.
apparently is a pretty big book. But he gave a lecture at the University of Utah
Hmm.
on the science of homosexuality, and he goes through crazy stuff on the imprint that's made on the fetal brain that orientates the sexuality of the child in utero, you know. He goes through it, and then he goes through the LDS church. You know, he's like, the term homosexuality didn't even show up anywhere in any printed anything until 1968. And before like the 1890s, like homosexuality, that wasn't even a word. It didn't even exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it technically did. They just didn't want people to, yeah.
I mean, that they would have, yeah.
I mean, not in the church. I mean, in general terms, like in the
Right.
big world, but it was still
Yeah.
going on before.
Well,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just such a new, like, no one had a reference to even address it, and let alone. So anyway, he goes through all this stuff that the church leaders had said, and he's like, well, they're doing the best they can, but they're still like, they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, I can't imagine. So fast forward a little bit. So you hadn't attended church for 4 years. And so what kind of mindset were you in after you left the church? Like,
Well, okay, yeah. So I was like, well, I'm either going to hell,
you're not going to hell.
or I'm gonna live a hell right now where I will never know romance and the fun and the attraction and the deep
Yeah.
relationships, because I've never been authentic. I could never be my authentic self. All my friends, like, they had no clue. Like, I couldn't be.
Really? So your friends you grew up with and stuff like that, no one knew that you were gay. So
Right.
can I ask, is it all right to ask, did you date a lot of girls or any longtime girlfriends or anything? Or
It was always superficial, and it would always lead to some sweet, you know, girls that I let get too close. At some point,
they
you know,
wanted to snag you.
again and again, they'd be breaking down, sobbing in my car, like, why don't you love me? Why don't you marry me? What, am I too fat? Am I like like,
And I understand. It's funny you say this. Well, not funny. It's just a word to say, but that we've learned. But my interview I did last night, you know, as we're talking about this, she had mentioned one thing she had a big problem with was that what you're talking about, they didn't accept homosexuality, and that a Black man could not grow within the church, so to speak, on the higher level and so forth. I don't remember the exact terminology, but she had a really big problem with that. I mean, especially that to me as well. That makes no sense to me. A man is a man, correct?
correct what?
No, I'm just bringing up that, you know, she had mentioned that a Black man could not make the reigns in the LDS church. It just,
Oh,
the proper term, you know, not the
yeah,
priest, but
couldn't have priesthood.
yeah. And I'm thinking he's a man. So what's the problem? Why, if so,
Yeah.
to me,
Prior,
that rubs me
prior
the
to
wrong way.
1978, correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So fast forward after, you know, the girls, because you are a good looking dude. So I could see
Oh,
all the Mormon girls wanting to be like, Mom, I want Shaun. Can you make that happen? So what was it like after you know, you
let me
hadn't
go.
been to church?
Oh, and let me go back real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Joseph Smith ordained a few Black men to
Oh,
priesthood.
that's
Yeah. So I mean,
interesting.
if you go back to Joseph Smith, like, he was pro women and pro, you know, everyone. I think, you arguably, but anyway. So that's another thing. The traditions and everything were like, Black people, heck no, or women,
Oh, I got a problem with that, with the women
yeah.
thing, because we're very powerful. That's why they degraded us for way too long.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
going to change. I feel it. It's changing. When all the
Yeah.
women find out what's going on in this crazy, they were,
Oh,
oh, forget it. It's over. It's over.
well, the women are the fighters. You've seen the women in the last 3 years, especially. Like they are in there. We're not standing up for this bull crap. And it's
Mhm.
powerful when you see women start to just say, "We are
Oh,
done with this crap."
oh, when
It's
they find out the truth about everything and there that so many people are awakening in their own ways, it's gonna be epic and I can't wait. But I digress. So, but yeah, what was it like once you left? I mean, what was your life like? I mean, were you kind of
uh,
going on a spiritual journey, so to speak, of your own, or?
no, I did not go on a spiritual journey. I consigned myself to say, okay, either try to endure to the end and have a good
Wow.
whatever eternally, or have
Oh,
not
Shaun,
live
oh,
hell right now. And anyway, so it
sorry.
just, things weren't too bad.
I'm
uh
so sorry. I can't imagine what that felt like. I can't
well, I
imagine.
mean, I really loved the church and aspects of the church, but
Why
after
can't you accept me the way that I am, kind of church? Right?
yeah, and after a while, I mean, it was not a big, it was like, oh. I mean, it's
Yeah.
sort of funny, like there's hardly anyone that wants to go to church. They
You know,
value it,
it's
and it's
it's
like everyone grits their teeth to go. But so I
yeah.
just like it just sort of I went to an ease point, and it was almost when I stopped going, it
Mhm.
was then almost that God for the first time is like, dang, now you're authentic. Now you're okay. Now we can start to work with you. Now that you're getting out of denial of this thing that you've tried to suppress and hide so dearly.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, but my tradition and my whatever is has been so strong that
So proud
yeah,
of you. I'm so proud of you for standing up for you, because everyone should be standing up for themselves.
yeah,
Whatever, as long as you're not hurting anyone, that's my rule. As long as you're not hurting anyone and you clearly aren't hurting anyone and you're a very kind soul. And, I just, my heart goes out to people that just can't be their true authentic self in whatever way it is, you
yeah.
know.
Well,
So,
yeah. Uh yeah, which that's something else that, a little bit around 2013 and thereabouts, something that started to sort of brood and come over me, almost like a message that just for months was
what was
the
happening to you? Like, what was
the
popping
thought.
in your head? And,
It was the thought of consider the little children, for such is the kingdom of heaven. Except you become as one of these, you can in no wise inherit the kingdom of heaven. That just kept coming again and again. I was like, what's the deal? And I'd start to, I had toddler kids, nieces and nephews in my life at the time. And I started to really like scrutinize, like, yeah, what is the deal? Consider the little children, consider the little children. And I'd start looking at these toddlers like, that's heaven right there.
that's the
They are heaven.
future. Yeah, I agree. I
And
agree.
I started to meditate and ponder, like, what is a kid like that?
Mhm.
So yeah, consider little children. They're spontaneous.
They
They're
always ask
fun.
questions,
They're
right?
yes. They do not get up in the ego. They don't remember yesterday. They're not thinking of tomorrow. They are right now in the moment.
I
I
love
mean,
that. I love
and
that.
and that's what when you really start to find adults that can get into that childlike.
Yeah.
My gosh, does not everyone just be sucked in? They're just drawn to that. We're drawn to that
Oh,
wonderful, authentic, playful,
I
genuine.
agree. Like, why do as we get older, it doesn't mean that we can't have fun and just be our true, authentic selves. I mean,
Oh,
I've got all kinds of quirks, but you know what?
yeah.
If anyone messes with children, animals, or anyone, and I see it, and you're a loser face, jerk, and you're being a bully. My gift is I go right for your insecurity, but I don't do it to be mean. I say something to make them think about the way that they're acting. And then
Nice.
that's just how I operate. And then there are people that I chew up and spit out, but that's a whole nother story.
There you go.
Um, I agree with you though that on the children, because my gosh, it's like, you look at all these kids nowadays, and I don't know about you, but I don't see kids playing outside as much anymore. They're all inside on their electronics,
Oh
it
yeah,
just,
absolutely.
does that break your heart? I'm like, I was outside, we were playing Red Rover and tag and kickball
Uh,
in my neighborhood. And
we're-
I'm like, I look around and I'm like, where are all the kids? I don't, it really bothers me. It really bothers me. I mean, you get one shot at being a kid, right?
Do you know who Elizabeth April is?
I do not.
Oh, she's on YouTube. She's a mystic. I don't know. Anyway, she said she remote viewed or something and
Mm-hmm.
saw the future that all these just generation that's so heavy, trying to be virtual and everything. She saw that at one point they're like, "What the crap?" Like they discover, "Oh, this is our real avatar. This is real life." Like ditch the freaking electronics. We're gonna have real experiences in physical
Yeah.
bodies and like go
Oh
and
my
have a real.
gosh. I'm so glad you said that, because when I see any of these kids, like my nieces and nephews, and I see them on their electronics, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you gonna remember any of this when you get older? Go outside, take a hike, go by the river, go pick some flowers, or
Oh
make a
gosh.
decorative wreath, or just like, they're never going to remember those things, because in my opinion, this is just my own opinion, but there is a lot of research on it. I mean, these kids, the stuff that's flinging through their head, I mean, there's more information going through their head than when we were growing up. So if
Oh,
that much is going through your head every day, how the heck are you going to remember one thing on? And it's not even face to face. I mean, I'm thankful we have Zoom for this type of stuff, but wouldn't you
yeah.
prefer to be face to face with people?
Heck yes.
And it's just a dying art, so to speak. And that's
Oh,
going
it
to
is.
change too. I feel that, but
I just saw, I don't remember where I saw it, but they were showing up. They showed a video. It was like New Year's Eve. I
uh-huh.
think it was in an Asian country. Like
Hmm.
New York, they have the ball drop.
Yeah.
Anyway, this was someone recording their phone, showing a sea of people in this ginormous plaza, and
Uh-huh.
every person there was holding their phone up, recording.
Instead of actually watching it.
Yeah, it's like we
Oh my
can't
gosh,
be
I'm
there.
so
We have
glad
to.
you said that. I've
Oh, they were
done things
ripping
like
us
that.
so bad.
I love that you said that, because I've been feeling that the last few years, where I want to record something. I'm like, but wait, I'm going to miss out on the fun and like the beauty of whatever. Like when I took that,
Can't
did you
be
see
there
my
right now. I have to only be there to make sure I share it on social media so everyone knows I was
exactly?
there.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of a sign, because I love to decode entertainment. But think about this, Shaun. Remember the last Seinfeld episode where they're recording someone getting carjacked and they have to go to court and all this stuff? I kid you not, I totally see that happening to so many people in the future who did nothing to help another person. Like, who would do that? Anyhow, I digress. But that reminds me of on October, on Halloween this past year, I
Uh-huh.
was meditating underneath the stars, because I just love it. Um, and I saw a rainbow in the sky, and I was like, oh my gosh, my camera looks awful when I take pictures at night. I don't know how to work that mode, but
Yeah.
I had to stop and enjoy it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to enjoy it. But if it's still there, I'm going to try to take a picture. And I actually did get it. You can see it. And that's when I was told it was a sundog. But those are the moments. I love that you said that, because I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So what else? So you were getting a lot of these downloads, so to speak. What else did you
Well, so if I'm going to talk about sort of a spiritual opening to things,
Sure, I
we
think
go
a
to
lot of
Emily's
people.
house, and we're in Emily's house, and she has everyone go around a circle in her living room, take
Mhm.
5-10 minutes, I don't know, 5 minutes each, and say, what's around the corner for you in the next 6 months, spiritually speaking. And so it was just to share. Then when it got to Emily's turn, she was talking. She kept looking up in the corner of the room, like she's
Mhm.
talking to someone. And she, no,
Mhm.
no, yeah, I'll tell him. I'll tell him. Like, I was like, well, like,
You're
you
getting a little
kidding
tripped
me?
out, maybe? Uh-huh.
I was enraptured. Like, this would be so cool if she's really talking to people, like
Yep. Mm.
angels or whatever. Like, this is off the charts cool, but I didn't believe it. I didn't buy into it.
Mm-hmm.
But my spirit of discernment was that she was authentic and that she was genuine. And if I didn't believe it, I knew that she did believe it and she wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just making it up to be
Mm-hmm.
lame. So the meeting ended, and my friend that had invited me to go there, she asked Emily, she's like, how many are here? Meaning angels, spirit guides in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
Emily shut her eyes. She goes, 15. She's like, how many for me? Are there any here for me? She said, yeah, 4. Oh, no, 5. A fifth one just came in. Oh, is my mother with them? And we started discussing, no, your mother's not here. And so they wound down. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
I felt the same way about that stuff a long time ago. I get it. You're like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then
Mm-hmm.
I laughed and I said, so do you see anyone for me? And she closed her eyes. She's like, yes, 3. Oh, 2 just went behind a veil. Now is not the time. They do not want to interface right now. But later,
Mm.
she's like, yeah, we could set some up and, have a session, talk about it. But then she goes, and your main angel, he's been with you your entire life, whispering to you. And I started to laugh, and I'm like, well, if he's been whispering, I have not been answering. And
Mm.
it just started to blow my mind. Like, if she's telling me that there's been some of this whispered to me, like this is crazy. And I started to get lost in the what
Translation.
if,
Literally.
what if.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard of the movie in 2003? I went to a matinee to the movie Finding Forrester. There was one, I was in there. There was an old lady and some other guy. And if I had been alone in that theater when the credits rolled, I would have sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. But I held it in
Mm-hmm.
and held my composure. But the story, it's about this young kid who's just going to be a hoodlum in gang New York, and he has a mentor come in and help him
Mm-hmm.
find his creative. And the movie ends with him going off to Princeton or something with a scholarship to develop his gift for writing. So
Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting.
so in the theater that day, I remember thinking, where is a man that I can look to that I even want to be like, or that like I have no one. I don't know what to do with my life. My life is a bloody waste. It's always been just
Going with the
uh
flow and
yeah.
just day
So
by day, right?
there was some admit, like, I respected my dad, but I wasn't super close, and other men that I could think of in my life, like, they just didn't have, I don't know, I needed something.
You
And I
needed like
remember,
a
and even God, like my father, like there was a disconnect there. Like, he's not there for me. Like, I'm all freaking alone in this world. So that was my emotion of wanting to just sob, like, I'm freaking alone. I don't have anyone. I don't even know of anyone that I would actually in a way, anyway, so with that emotion, to go fast forward to Emily a decade later, and she's like, yeah, this main angel, he's been with you your entire life, whispering to you. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like that's a close relationship. If she's right,
You
and there's
needed,
someone like
oh,
the
that,
intimacy of
I,
that relationship, if the veil was lifted and there's someone like, who was that before I was born? Like, I'm going to be there and be your guy and whisper to you and keep you on, like, so
oh, was that kind of like a real pivotal moment? Like, did you start talking, so to speak, to your angel?
I didn't, but so I went
But maybe
home
you
and
didn't even realize you were already talking to him because you're talking in your own mind.
well, I started to wonder, like, interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
then just the cascade of different people, all of a sudden, like another lady lives the next county down.
Mm-hmm.
I was told, oh, do you want to? So the Christine, who had invited me to go see Emily that night, she
Mm-hmm.
called me up. She's like, uh, Shaun, how's your business going? How blah blah blah. He's like, have you turned your life over to the Lord or something? Like, like the Lord
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want, yeah, whatever. I don't know. And
Yeah.
so I told my mom that, and she's like, well, should we take you down and see Linda? I won't say her full name.
Yeah.
Uh, who was a lady that really helped out a family friend of ours, and then my sister, as both of them in their divorces and all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of crazy crap, like
Mm-hmm.
just super solid. So she's a mystic and can tune into the other side
Mm-hmm.
and angels and stuff. So we
Mm-hmm.
went down and met with her, and yeah, she was like,
It
"Oh,
just
you
blew
got
your
someone
mind.
with." Yeah, so she's like, he's showing me before this world and what you contracted, and you're really close. And rather than come here and be separate and apart, uh, he opted to anyway.
It
She
was
said,
it was eye-opening for you, it sounds like. It was just something
yeah,
that really resonated, like, what if, again, what if?
yeah. And there's stories that I can go for hours going, little things here and there that, like, oh my gosh, that angel is real. Like,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
believe, like
I
I've
am
had a
a
firsthand experience. Like, and the more I get into a childlike, playful, imaginative, and are around people that believe too, the magic can start happening.
dude,
You get in
I
that space,
totally feel the same way. And can I
like
just say one thing,
like
people, yeah,
well, just even acknowledging that fairies are real. Like,
it
if
came
you
from
open up
somewhere.
yourself to that world, they're
It
real.
it came from somewhere. And you know what's funny is and you already know that I like to decode entertainment. And what I found is, so I've done this a few times in front of friends because they legit think it's crazy. And I'm
Uh,
very thankful that I ran into this. So numerology, everyone knows that AI is speaking to us. You don't even have to type something in. You think it and boom, the ads pop up. People just don't understand how it works because they don't want to learn how it works. But the big guy, whether you want to call him Big Daddy, God, Chi, Source, it's all the same. He's listening to you as well. So numerology, gematria is, and for me to wrap my head around this, it took me a little while, but I finally figured a way to explain it to people, is that um, everything is scripted, like since the beginning of time. And at first, when I started hearing that, I'm like, that's crazy. But A equals one. I mean, A equals one, B equals two, C equals three, Z equals 26. And everything you put in has been predetermined. But what's crazy is people receive their own messages if they know how to do it properly. And only we are the
wow.
ones, like, so think of millions and millions of algorithms, everything is software programming, TV programming, everything is a program. It's literally in our face. 155,
Wow.
one of my favorites. But when people understand what's really happening in this world, so many people have been brought up in religion, right? They're brought up in religion, you know, and people believe in God, they believe in Jesus and so forth. There's so many different, you know, religions, so to speak, but everyone believes. And the crazy thing is so many people deny that all of our movies and entertainment, they're actually going to be part of the new book to explain what's really been happening. And oh my gosh, so when I see vets, I say this all the time in front of my people. So I go up to vets and I ask them, I thank them for their service, and they're usually over 50, you know what I mean? The ones that I go to. And if I have a friend that's a doubter, I say right in front of them, I'm like, hey, tell me, I'm like, is gematria real? It's actually military coding as well. So if you think about, if you want to keep the people from being harmed, not just being harmed, but understanding the big picture, people would just be committing suicide. I'm just going to say it, like people would not understand. So gematria is a way, just like President Trump had always said, you know, things about the signs and symbolism are going to be their downfall kind of a thing, you know, it's kind of the
Trump
same.
said that?
Oh, you can look that up. It's everywhere. I
Oh,
love,
Trump never said that.
he has said signs
Wow.
and symbolism is going to be their biggest downfall. And he's like, you're watching a movie within a movie. And that's actually what's really happening, but people don't understand it. So I could go on and on, but I ask these military guys, I say, is gematria real? And they'll be like, yep, absolutely. And I'll say, but I don't think that they can publicly talk about it. So if you ask them, they'll tell you. Like I decode the local news headlines. I'm like, oh, and I can start seeing, and then boop, 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 boop. Sure enough, I put it in, I document everything. And then within a couple months, some of the things that resonated for me, I'm like, oh, there you go. That happened. It's really, really trippy,
Oh,
but it's a crazy world. And I just want to say I'm really, really honored to know you, because I gravitate towards people that are really authentic. And I don't know about you, but are you just kind of getting tired of people just, how do you feel about the world today? Let's just
well, you
go there.
expressed it, and I agree. There's a point where it's like, man, the world as it is and as it has been, I can't take it much more.
Yeah, I
Like
know.
we need
It's,
to we need to have some big shifts, big
yeah, I agree. I
like this
agree.
tax slave status that we're
Everything.
in, and just oh
And the constant fighting with everyone. What, you know, remember
oh
those lines in our entertainment? There's a reason why we can relate to the quotes we hear in our entertainment and our music, because they're supposed to be stuck in our head so that when they come to these times, they're going to be like, aha, that's why you know. And
oh.
everyone wants world peace, but I don't see a lot, you know, there are a lot of people out there still acting like assholes to each other just because you don't agree on things. And it's okay to agree to disagree. You know, it's just like people down the road when we watch this podcast, you know, if there's one person that has their awakening over politics, are they going to stop watching it? Well, I would hope not, because this is going to be stories about everyone's awakening. And the point
The,
is, it's, yeah,
the
but
intolerance, and there are stereotypes that are so spot on. Like if you're a Biden supporter, like not to get into that
I know.
paradigm of right versus left, but my
Yeah,
goodness. Like I
yeah,
just saw
yeah.
a little clip of a comedian. I saw it yesterday.
Mhm.
Probably 30 seconds. Some lady in the audience wearing a mask. He's like, "So, what do you got that on for? Is that to show who you vote for, or something?" Like it was sort of funny. Like, oh yeah, like that's totally.
Wait till you find out what's really happening. It's going to blow a lot of people's minds. And I hope that people remember I just said that, because we'll all be able to rewind and go back because there's a lot more going on in the quote unquote
Well,
fake
so
news.
what do you think of the people that are still so dang hostile? I mean, I sent out so much info.
I'm listening to you. I'm just texting our next meeting. Hold on, okay? I
Are we
apologize.
I don't even know what the time is. So if it's time
Yeah, we hold on. We are running late. Jumping on.
oh well, yeah.
No, hold on. Oh, not 8:20. 8:30. We can wrap it up by 8:30. 8:30. And that'll give some people to jump on. But excuse me for that. So the world today, if you had any words of encouragement for people right here, right now, with this world we are in, and especially thinking of the children that you're talking about and so forth, what would your words of encouragement be?
Oh boy, that's heavy duty.
You're a philosopher. I can tell. So
I think there's reason to be, have courage. And I don't know, like our friend that we met, Robert, I really felt amazing hearing his experience where he was taken and shown stuff. And one of the messages to him was, do not kill yourself. Do not kill yourself. You will be pissed. You will be super pissed if you take yourself out of this game, because this is it. This is
dude, I know. People don't even realize what's really happening. Like, we are living in the most exciting. It was the worst of times. It was the best of times. That's another great numerology. Like all of these things, it's crazy how things just pop in my head. I watch shows. I don't even watch shows anymore I just think of people when they're so tired at the end of the day and they just turn on the boob tube. And they just get numb and they just like, I really want to start encouraging people when they hear that, when that fake audience laugh you hear on pre-recorded TV shows or whatever.
Oh, horrible.
I want to encourage people, seriously, try this out. When they laugh, think about what they just said, because what you're going to find is that the thing they just said is actually not funny. I know it sounds backwards, but this is how people are. Yeah, but like there's so many examples that I could tell you. I remember one time, a long time ago, watching 2.5 Men, and Charlie is just like, yeah, and I got her drunk and I roughed her up in the back alley, and I gave her some drugs or something along the lines of that. And then here's the audience. And I'm like, that's actually not really funny. But that's how it works. It's that uncomfortable laugh we all do when, it's just it's going to be amazing but it's going to get really scary for certain people too, that maybe have not looked into research and going down the rabbit hole, so to speak,
Something that I think is super, like, has really grabbed me in the last year that I've heard in numerous, I don't know if you know the Next Level Soul podcast on YouTube.
No.
Anyway, that guy's had on Daryl Inca. I don't remember how he's named. He channels Bashar. And that's woo-woo for people maybe, but I like listening and just like it's an imaginative, like whoever's inventing what he's saying, like it's amazing. Anyway,
it makes sense too. Maybe it kind of resonates too. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, he says that we're it's like we're in a train station, and we choose right now the vibe we want to go on. And as we're going out from the train station, the train we are on, that's where we're going. If we choose to be on a negative train,
not me.
It's gonna be hard to switch over because there's gonna be a reality split.
Like they do in the movies where they have that cross track.
Well,
like sometimes in trains they've got the crossover. See, this is where my
yeah.
head goes. I always look at the symbolism in movies and entertainment and music and yeah.
But so he's like, you go with what is your passion and what is high vibe for you, because that's going to be the reality that you're manifesting and you're going into if you choose to go in some crappy. So what's your passion? What's your talents, your gifts, your things that really you get lost in the moment?
Like you
That's
just want
what
to
we need
keep
to be doing.
learning, right? Instead, and
What?
and I feel bad when I say this, but I've come to realize that a lot of us we're working for corporate America, and a lot of these corporate America companies, as we're finding out, are not such good. They're not really looking out for our best interest. But what
Right.
I find is, and I've mentioned this to a few people and just encourage them to think about something. I said, think about this when you work for government and you work in a hospital or, big tech and so forth, they quote unquote train you. And they train you that their way is always the right way because they trained you. But how is it that you don't know that their way is the right way? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Whereas people and one thing that just it's a pet peeve of mine, but I'm biting my tongue because I know not everyone is there yet, so to speak. But commercials, all they do is brainwash you. You're
Yeah.
fat, you're ugly, you need this pill, you're in debt. Like everything is a home for mom. Like, oh, your day's gonna come too someday, and you're gonna put your kid. Like, who wants to live a life like that? That you're sitting in a room all alone by yourself. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty shitty. But you know what I mean? People just they're so busy in their own heads that they're just listening to what they're told or because that's the way things are, and for me, I'm like, no, I still have questions. You need to answer my questions. Do you feel the same way about like so much stuff? Like I got a lot of questions,
Oh yeah. Yep.
right? And
It's
and and can I ask also when you went through that period of leaving the church and so forth, and you had mentioned that you were really, really alone. Um, I'm finding that a lot of people that have had that, whatever their awakening story is, or the aloneness is aloneness, you know what I mean? Um, but now fast forward, do you feel like that aloneness has made you stronger in certain ways that you can see a bigger picture in life, so to speak, to a degree?
oh, oh, probably. I think anything we experience that we perceive as negative is always going to strengthen us and make us better, give us
Yeah,
better experience.
I
And,
agree. As hard as
and
they
my
are.
concept of who God is shifted a lot to where, my sense of disconnect from God is more just my own programming BS rather than like if I get a flavor of who God is from the mystics or who
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh.
He's John Denver to me. I'm just going to throw it out there. He's the bionic Messiah. That was written in
That's awesome.
Newsweek timeline. No, this is the stuff that I pick up on. People
Uh,
like they listen to your interviews, your entertainment, all these shows. It's called entertainment for a reason. And literally, when you see that entertainment is going to be the big picture to explain what's been happening in this world, people are going to take the time to go back and go back to all these shows and literally start reading between the lines when they understand the storyline of what's been happening in the world, and they can start connecting the dots, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, Sharon was right. It's in our face, 155. It works that way. I mean, there are things I pick up in interviews that I'm like, did he just say what I think he just said? Or did she just say? I mean, they're telling you truth in your face about all
uh,
kinds of things, but they change the fluctuation of their voice, or they make it sound happy, or like I had mentioned in like the 2.5 Men, beating someone in the back alley and having the audience laugh in the background. That's actually not funny. So pay attention.
I think there's a lot of people that are awakened to that stuff. Like I remember, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, the news hour, so and so, so and such died. He was the man that invented the laugh track. They started to put into sitcoms, I think, in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's a
so it's like,
brainwashing tool. That's what that is.
yeah. And you take that out, most sitcoms, like, oh, it's so deadening, that fake, phony, fraudulent laugh.
I
I,
agree,
I
but do you also notice that a lot of the storylines, especially on TV shows and so forth, when you look at them now, I mean, they've got shows for children explaining what's really happening in this world,
oh,
and they create it so that when the truth is exposed, it's going to be easier. That's why they always say the children are going to lead the way. They're the masterminds because their minds haven't been corrupted yet.
did
And I
you see the
truly believe in that.
Do you remember that first Avengers movie that came out? Oh, it was not maybe Avengers. Well, it had Captain America guy.
I love him.
You remember Robert Redford was in the one?
Yes, yes. Oh, wait a minute.
That was
Was
like
that
the
Captain
first
America? That was
movie
with
in
the.
forever that sort of like a patriotic, freedom loving force. I don't know, but you remember people like, that was the good guys, that was the white hats that made that film to show the real deal. Like, I was like,
And all
oh
you
my,
have to, yeah, and all you have to do is really listen between the lines and what they're saying. I mean, yeah, I mean, they're saying things that once you understand the big picture, you're going to be like, holy shit, oh my gosh. Like,
yeah,
did they just say that? But it's weird. It's hard for me to explain, and we've got 2 minutes to wrap it up. But what I was trying to get to real quick is when people actually sit and listen to a TV show, does the storyline even make sense? First, they have to ask that. Second, they have to ask, like, where do they come up with these stories? Because
uh-huh.
they're literally connecting stories with the truth. There's duality. Like I was talking with Paige last night. I was so excited. My interview I did last night. She actually understands that entertainment is duality. You can see the bad and you can hear the bad, but you can also see the good. Because in the new book, they're supposed to share truth no matter what. So all those ancient alien shows and all that they like to put as quote unquote fantasy and all that. Oh, wait, it's gonna be crazy.
Wow.
It's gonna be crazy. Well, I am so glad that you came on because I really feel like this is gonna resonate with a lot of people in due time. People need to hear this, your story. I mean, you got to be authentic to yourself first. I
Yeah,
truly believe that in everyone. If you want to go another way, but you see all your friends going the other way, which way are you going to go? You're going to jump off the bridge like the rest of your friends? You're going to be a sheeple, or are you going to be one who just follows in here? And I'm
man,
really proud of you that you did
if
that.
we could if we could keep that child essence and not turn to be a Pharisee, but stay the child. Oh, which that was
Dude,
another thing of a child. They are not schooled yet in all the dogmas like the Pharisee is, who's got the books and the scripture, and that, like, child's not into any of that yet.
and
And
most children, when you think about it, and besides learning your ABCs and one, two, threes, you lose a lot of kids because they've got
yeah,
other questions, you know what I mean? And they're just sitting there going, okay, this is how it goes, but I still have these questions. And I know I did.
so
So
I think that's going to be the fun thing in the new world, is that authenticity,
I do
and
too.
everyone be coming back into their own as children, being as a little child.
I agree. And it's okay to agree to disagree. And everyone can just say sorry and hug things out
Yeah,
and just recognize that we're all one big family. And that's where it really comes from, in my own personal opinion. We're all here doing it together to make it work, right?
yeah.
You're awesome, Shaun. Thank you
You-
so much. I
You're
appreciate
awesome
you.
too. You bet.
Oh, well, great. Well, I'm going to end the session now. Is there
Hey,
any last words you want to say real quick before we end here?
nope. Just keep on trucking.
On trucking. Oh, I'm gonna have to do some gematria on that one too.
Oh,
All these good old sayings. There's meaning
uh,
behind everything. So
how fun.
awesome. All right, Shaun. Well, you have a good night and thank you so much. I
You
appreciate you.
too.
Bye.
Thanks. See
Got
ya.
and say bye. Say bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.